Hey adventurers, so today is going to be another book review. This is going to be for Words of Radiance by Brandon Sanderson. This is epic fantasy, high fantasy, military fantasy to some degree, just a lot of the same genres that these books that the first one Way of Kings was when I reviewed that. Yeah, so let's get going. Words of Radiance is book 2 of the Stormlight Archive, which I just mentioned, by Brandon Sanderson. Many people consider this to be his best book ever written. And upon this reread, I had my opinion changed on that a little bit. I will go over that in a second, though. Once I get into my review, and I will talk a little bit more about why I think that. Before I continue, though, I just quickly like to say I am T. Welcome to an Erudite adventure. Please like, comment, and subscribe if you haven't already, and we will continue right on into this review. So as I mentioned, many consider this to be one of his best books, one of Sanderson's best books, and I have some thoughts on that. First, though, this book is Shallan's book, and that's a good thing. We need to see Shallan's character. We need to learn who she is and why she is the way she is. So that's good stuff. I don't have any problem with that. We follow her flashbacks and we see her childhood. I am able to understand Shallan a little bit different, in a little bit of a different way than most of the other characters, due to the fact that she is an artist. And while I can't draw, while I'm not an artist in the same way that she is, I find that the mindset that she has and the approach that she takes to certain things, basically the creative processes that we have, are similar enough that I'm able to understand her in a little bit different way. The creative processes we see through her are understandable to me and similar in many ways to how I think. That's helpful as we go through her past, because in a lot of ways she is actually a fairly annoying character, and so having something that grounds me with her character and helps me to relate to her character a little bit more is helpful for understanding her and also for enjoying the story. There is a rather shocking event that happens very early on in this book, and the whole time I read this book, for the first time I read it, I was in complete disbelief, and I was like, something's off about this. I don't believe it. I don't think that what we think is going on is actually what's going on and stuff like that. And so I didn't know what was going on, but I really couldn't believe it. This time, though, rather than just thinking that, I allowed myself to just read the story and experience it as it was told. I do also find this book to be one of his more descriptive books, and we come across some incredible imagery, and it's interesting because, well, for one, Shallan being an artist, you would expect this book to be more artisty in terms of like descriptions and stuff like that, and I feel like Sanderson actually does do that, so that's good. There's a lot of technical writing aspects that I feel are powerful and more well done in this series than in a lot of his other, or in this book than in a lot of his other books. The rest of the storylines have some very strong points as well. Dalinar trying to truly forge this new alliance. In the first book, he was kind of just trying to figure himself out. And this second book, he's still trying to do that, but also trying to forge these kingdoms into an alliance, into a unified kingdom. And it's an interesting story. The political, with all the political machinations that are going on with it, I actually found it to be interesting story. Though this time, I was also a bit bored with this story, and that's, while it can be interesting, it can also be boring at the same time. Adolin is great, absolutely a highlight and standout character in this book. Renarin as well, and then of course Kaladin. Kaladin is the hero's hero and just the best character in this series by far. But it's almost expected at this point that his parts will be enjoyable, so it's no surprise that Kaladin is enjoyable. Herein, though, lies my problem with this book upon rereading it. And we're finally now getting to what I was talking about at the beginning, with what I was saying with the beginning, that upon this reread, my opinion changed a little bit. So let's continue. I was bored during the vast majority of this book, of this reread. And that's unfortunate, because the first time it wasn't like that. Now, I don't know if that is completely due to the book itself or also the fault of the audiobook. Unfortunately, I think that it's both. I think that it's a little bit of both. The audiobook is a very Michael Kramer heavy audiobook, for even though it's Shallan's book, there's a lot of Michael Kramer, and for some reason, something about it I was just very bored listening to this book the whole time that I was listening to it. The first time I read it, I loved this book. It was not, I didn't love it as much as I did The Way of Kings, but it was very, very close second. And I definitely enjoyed it a lot more than I did on this reread. It was excellent, and I was engaged in it the entire time. This time I listened to the audiobook, and it was just not the case that I was engaged. I was just bored the entire time I was reading this. Like, I thought this was a good book, and then I was just so bored the entire time. Other than a few scenes, it just wasn't nearly as good as I remembered. And I think so many people focus on these fantastic scenes that this book does contain, and just allow themselves to ignore all the rest of how boring it is in a lot of places. I truly think people's opinions are a bit colored by things like Whitespine Uncaged and the Sanderlanche of this book, because there are scenes that are incredible in this book. Those two specifically that I mentioned are both fantastic. I just don't find that to be the case with the rest of the book. I don't find that the rest of the book is nearly as strong as I thought it was the first time. And that's particularly disappointing to me, because Way of Kings upon reread was just as incredible as the first time I remembered it, or I had read it, even on audio, and then this just wasn't. And then it's also particularly disappointing because of what's going on with the rest of the series. Books 4, which was fairly well received, but not had a lot more people saying, I'm not sure about that. And then book 5, which was very, very split down the middle of this is not good versus this is pretty good. So it's disappointing that I'm disappointed by a different one of his books that I had previously really enjoyed. And so I don't know. I don't know exactly what all I think about this book, but I definitely didn't enjoy it as much as I did the first time, and I will probably at some point go through and reread it physically, because like I've mentioned several times, physical reading is my favorite way to consume stories. I just can't get to them very quickly, which is why I did the audiobook for this one. Anyways, that is my review of Words of Radiance by Brandon Sanderson, book 2 of the Stormlight Archive. Thank you guys for watching an Erudite adventure. We are posting videos every Monday and Thursday, and we will see you guys again soon. Stay warm.